Welcome to Lesson 4 of the New Mexico Secretary of State Election Challenger, Watcher, and Observer Training Course. In this lesson, we will cover permitted and prohibited activities at the polling location. What may you do at the polling location as an election challenger, watcher, or observer? First and foremost, please remember to respect the authority of the presiding judge of the polling location as they help to administer the election. You may be allowed in the room in which voting is being conducted at the polling location, provided that at any given time, each political party, candidate, or election-related organization may have no more than one person present. This means that when you arrive to the polling location, if there is already a challenger, watcher, or observer from the same organization you are registered with, you may not be allowed to observe the voting. You may be allowed in the room in which the absent voter election board, the recount election board, or the election board for a special election conducts its business in, or in the case of county canvass observers, in which the county canvass is conducted, provided that each political party, candidate, or election-related organization shall have no more than 2 persons present at any given time in counties with more than 10,000 registered voters, 4 persons present at any given time in counties with more than 50,000 registered voters, or 15 persons present at any given time in counties with more than 150,000 registered voters. This means the number of challengers, watchers, and observers allowed in the room during the absentee board process is determined based on the number of registered voters within the county. If you arrive to the absentee board and there are already challengers, watchers, and observers from the same organization, you may not be allowed to view the absentee board process. While at a polling location, when you are a properly registered and credentialed challenger, watcher, or observer, you may do the following. You may be present at any time from the time the precinct board convenes at the polling place until the completion of the precinct board's duties after the polls close. This means you may enter the polling place after the board arrives for setup, but you do not have to wait until the polls open for voting. You may also stay after the polls close, while the board is finishing their duties. But please keep in mind these are your neighbors performing an important civic duty just like you are, and it is important to be respectful of one another's role in the election process. You are also permitted to observe that the election is being conducted in accordance with the Election Code of New Mexico. You cannot view protected voter information, but you may be close enough to hear the voter provide the required information to receive a ballot. You may view the precinct voter list to ascertain whether a voter has voted, subject to the same prohibitions and restricted as placed upon challengers by the Election Code. You may view any voting machine being used in the precinct before the polls are opened to ensure that the public counter is at 0, that the results tape contains no votes, and that there are no voted ballots in the voting machine bins. You may make in any polling place and preserve for future reference written memoranda of any action or omission on the part of any member of the precinct board charged with the performance of a duty by the Election Code. Now we will cover the prohibited behaviors of an election challenger, watcher, or an observer. You may not be allowed to perform any duty of an election board member. You are not a poll worker and you may not perform their duties. You may not handle the ballots, signature rosters, checklist of voters or voting machines, or take part in the counting or tallying of the ballots or the county canvass. You may not be allowed to view a voter's full date of birth or any portion of the voter's social security number. You may not interfere with the orderly conduct of the election, the counting or tallying of the ballots, or the county canvass. Your role is to observe and watch the election, not to take over the duties of the sworn-in polling officials. If you have questions, speak with the presiding judge of the location, or contact your county clerk after the election. You are not permitted to interfere with the voting process or other voters, nor are you permitted to handle ballots or interact with the poll book or tabulators. Finally, let's cover other legal requirements of challengers, observers, and watchers at a polling location. Challengers, watchers, election officials, and members of the precinct board cannot disclose who anyone has voted for. You are there to observe the election process, not to observe which candidates individuals vote for. If you are an appointed challenger, watcher, or an observer who has presented their written appointment and is not interfering with the election process, you may not be denied entry to the polling place. Likewise, you may not interfere with any other challenger, watcher, or observer, or the duties of the poll board members. During the election counting and tallying process, only members of the precinct board may handle ballots, signature rosters, or tally sheets. If you are a challenger, watcher, or observer, you may be present for the count and tally, but may not interfere with the process. Do not engage in any intimidating behavior while acting as an election challenger, watcher, or observer. This includes any action intended to scare or induce fear in anyone involved in the election process, such as a poll worker, voter, or county clerk. Whomever commits intimidation is guilty of a 4th-degree felony. Polling place access may not be obstructed at any time during the election. This includes anyone within 50 feet of the polling place who is willfully blocking access to the site. This concludes Lesson 4, Permitted and Prohibited Activities of Election Challengers, Watchers, and Observers. If you have any questions on this lesson, or any of the other content in this training course, please contact your county clerk's office.